Today, I'd like to talk about false flags, attacks, and other things that just seem nonsensical. They really don't make any sense as to what happened. False flags were very common back in the 1700s when you had the three competing empires of the English, the French, and the Spaniards. Let's say I was a captain of a French ship. I would put up an English flag on my ship, go through to trading routes typically used by Spanish ships, attack a Spanish ship flying an English flag, miraculously let the Spanish ship escape, and then they go back and tell the king that the English have attacked us. Therefore, the idea is to get the Spaniards into the war with you against the English. Um, False flags attacks have happened throughout history. In the last century, probably one of the most famous ones, at least to the United States, was the 1967 attack by the Israeli Air Force and Navy on the U.S. naval ship Liberty. This ship was flying the American ensign, naval ensign. It was obviously an American ship. The Israelis knew it was an American ship. They had to. But they wanted to destroy the ships, put it to the bottom of the Mediterranean Sea, to get the United States into the 7 day war they were having with the Arabs. They torpedoed the ship, they machine gunned the ship, they napalmed the ship. When the crew felt the ship was going to go down, they put life rafts in the ocean, and the Israelis shot them up and sunk them. Only through the heroic efforts of the crew and the construction of the ship, it was made back during World War II, did the ship stay afloat. And of course, the Israelis apologized. They said they thought it was an Egyptian merchant ship, which, of course, that in itself would bear no threat to the nation of Israel. So why were they attacking it? The captain of the Liberty, I think his name was Butcher, was awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor. Usually this is done at the White House with great fanfare, as it should be. This is a most prestigious award this country has. Captain Butcher was given his Medal of Honor in the crew quarters of his ship. So you can say the Israeli lobby might have some power in this country. You could maybe deduce that. False flags they've even happened in this century. 9/11 was a classic example of false flag. It happened on a day when the United States was conducting air defense drills in the northwest part of the country in Alaska, meaning most of the Air Force assets were deployed in that area. 2 aircraft destroyed 3 skyscrapers in Manhattan. Never happened before that any skyscraper has fallen from supposedly fires. And a portion of the Pentagon that housed the audit team was hit by an airplane, supposedly. And the day before, Secretary of Defense Rumsfeld had announced that the Pentagon had apparently lost track of, I forget how many trillions of dollars. But miraculously, that plane hit that part of the Pentagon where those auditors were housed. We blame this on Osama bin Laden, who supposedly masterminded this attack in a cave in Afghanistan. And although there were reports that Osama bin Laden had been in a hospital in the Persian Gulf the month before on dialysis, we invaded Afghanistan. There was apparently plans to put a natural gas pipeline through the country of Afghanistan. And also, we took control of the opium crop, which the Taliban had apparently pretty much eradicated the production of opium in Afghanistan. But ever since then, the American government, American troops, have secured the opium crop in Afghanistan. And you wonder why there is a problem with a heroin epidemic in this country. The CIA is famous for using drug money to finance its off-the-books operations. In fact, a lot of the Northeast liberal establishment, Skull and Bones, is founded by drug money. This is typical behavior and source of revenue for these people, other people's misery. But with the rise of these all-powerful intelligence agencies, in this century and currently, there are things that happen that, while they might not necessarily be called a false flag, they don't make sense. You can't figure them out. The JFK assassination is a typical example of this. You have the guy who supposedly killed him, Lee Harvey Oswald, left the Marine Corps, defected to Russia, came back with a Russian wife without any visible means of support, was never interviewed by the State Department or anybody else about his experiences in Russia or anything. He just came back, and he was supposedly a communist or an anti-communist in New Orleans. We're not real sure. There was a little debate about that. And he miraculously gets a job in a building overlooking the presidential motorcade, which is going to be there in a couple of months. And this is in a spot where the motorcade almost stops to make a oblique turn. And the shots come from somewhere, and the driver of the presidential limousine, instead of hitting the gas according to procedure, basically stops the car. And obviously Kennedy is killed, but they have a manufactured patsy in Lee Harvey Oswald. They have doctored pictures of him holding the supposed rifle, holding the Communist Daily Worker newspaper with the pistol on his hip. The American people at the time just accept that this is a lone nut that killed our president. I don't think too many people believe that now. More recently, earlier this year, we had a shooting by a Bernie Sanders supporter. He shot into the Republican baseball team or whatever. Apparently this guy really knew nothing about firearms. He had basically a piece of crap weapon. But he miraculously managed to hit Congressman, I think his name is Scalise, from Louisiana. Congressman Scalise had just put out a video saying that they were really going to support and really try and put legislation through to try and end human trafficking in this country. In his video, he said that human trafficking, human sex trafficking, affects every community in this country. He made that video the day before he was shot. Everybody else suffered slight wounds. Congressman Scalise was hit in a very vital area that would typically be fatal. To me, it seems like there were probably two shooters, but I'm paranoid. Now we have the Las Vegas incident. We just pray for the families of the victims, and we pray for the recovery of those that are still fighting for their lives. It's just terrible, terrible tragedy. It's obviously very early in whatever happened, but it looks like there is a liberal patsy already set up. I kind of doubt this guy even did it, but whatever. And there's all this talk of multiple guns in the room. I mean, why would he have 20-something guns in his room? You don't need that. But there's, in all of these cases, you have to ask, cui bono? Who benefits? JFK assassination, there's about 59,000 Americans who died in Vietnam who are not able to ask that question. With Congressman Scalise, there was absolutely no call for gun control, even though a member of Congress was shot. So who benefited from this? The fact that he was a very important member of the Republican leadership, a whip, is very important in getting legislation pushed through. Probably much more important than that dork Ryan. So in this case, we have, after this Las Vegas shooting, we have tremendous calls for gun control legislation. Seems like it was just waiting in the wings for something to happen. It seems like this guy's a manufactured patsy. We'll probably never know the truth. We just have to keep asking cui bono, who benefits. The last two attacks, the Scalise and this Las Vegas shooting, were attacks by liberals on basically conservatives. And so you have to wonder if they're designed that way to possibly get the conservatives to attack a liberal group and possibly start a civil war, which Antifa has talked about. They're going to start a violent revolution this month or next month and overthrow the government. And so you have to wonder just who benefits from this. This thing in Las Vegas was well planned out, way ahead of time. The rooms rented. It smacks of an intelligence operation. And so just we need to pray for our country and realize we are in very, very desperate and dangerous times. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge Him, and He will direct your path.